Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's demo. We're super excited for this holiday themed demo where we're going to be going through Liquitex glass mediums. So it's super exciting. We're joined with Marla from Liquitex, who will be going through everything. And I guess I'll just hand it off to her. She can introduce herself. And I'd like to say if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box while she's doing the actual demo, just to avoid any like distraction. Them out when we second, and there might be a little bit of time at the end for a little Q&A. So with all that out of the way, I'll give it to Marla and she can introduce herself.
All right, thanks a lot. Yes, I'm Marla Morrison, and I'm really happy to be here to talk about the Basics Acrylics and our brand new glass medium. So yeah, I look forward to any questions you have, and we'll get started. So here are just a few things I want to point out. This top Instagram handle stands for the Fine Art Collective North America. If you're really into learning more about technical materials when it comes, or technical things when it comes to art materials, this is a great site to check out and follow. We have a lot of Instagram lives and mini demos all about, acrylics, oils, watercolor, all different sorts of media. So that's a great one to check out. And then if you're interested in following my specific art journey, I'm at Marla Morrison Art. I work with all sorts of media, primarily acrylic. I've also been doing resin lately, so I'd love to see you there and see what you're up to as well. And then lastly, of course, we've got at Liquitex Official. This is the brand of paint that we're using today, and that's a great site to find out about other artists who use our materials, possible artist residencies, and lots of great information all about Liquitex. So I hope you give those a little check out if you have the time. Okay, so the whole concept today is that issue of what do you give the person when you maybe get a last minute dinner invitation, or you have a holiday party that you're going to, and you're like, man, I'd really like to give something special, something handmade. What can I do? And I don't know about you, but sometimes the word handmade can mean like, is it going to be too like cheesy, crafty? I want it to look good, right? So hopefully you'll think that this would be something that looks good and handmade. What we're using is the Liquitex Basics Acrylics and the Liquitex new glass medium. We'll go through making these four little glass, or painting these four glass votives, and then I'll show you some other ideas as well at the end. Okay, so hopefully, if you're painting along with me, hopefully you have these colors. I have white, phthalo blue, cad red deep hue, hooker's green hue permanent, silver, and gold. And if you've used acrylics before, you know that the solvent for acrylics is water. So I also have a water bucket up here that I can clean my brushes. I have a Liquitex synthetic filament brush, and I also have a Winsor Newton synthetic filament brush that's a little bit smaller. I have my palette knife to mix the color with the glass medium. And so that's the basic things, a palette paper, and I've got paper towels, and of course I've got the glass votives. So let me say this real quick. When I'm using it, you'll notice I'm going to just kind of pick it up with my fingers. I try not to touch the edges of the glass, or I should do it this way. Try not to touch the edges or the outer where I'm going to paint, because you really want your glass to be nice and clean before you start working on it. So if you want to run out to your bathroom and use some soap and water to clean your glass items, go for it. I'm not going to be painting all that quickly. But the idea with that is the glass medium adheres really nicely to non-porous surfaces like glass, but you want to make sure it's nice and clean and free of finger oils as well. So I just wash these with soap and water. You can also kind of do a light degreasing with alcohol. Like if you have some rubbing alcohol handy, you could wipe it down with that as well. So I've got my four that I'm going to paint. And then let me show you some info on the acrylic tube itself, just in case you're not as familiar with acrylic, just so you can get a bit of an idea of how to read our packaging. So I think that can be really helpful when you're choosing colors, because hopefully you'll get excited about this process and you'll want to make more and you want to choose different colors. So when you look at a tube of our color, it's obviously going to have the title Basics Acrylic. It's going to have the color name. In this case, it's phthalo-cyanine blue. And we're going to give you the opacity in the basics. The phthalo skews a little more opaque. And then this little sun symbol, I'm not sure if you can see that. It's really tiny, but it's like a little sun with a 1 in it. That refers to our light fastness rating for that particular color. And the light fastest Roman numeral 1 is, I got to do this way. Roman numeral 1 is our most permanent color. Okay, so just be aware of that. And I think everything I'm using today is either opaque or the gold is semi-opaque, but that can be helpful just if you're painting on a canvas or whatnot, and you want to make sure that you have good coverage. Opaque colors are nice for that. When it comes to working with the glass medium, you're going to see that the glass medium, you just need a little bit of color and a whole lot of medium. So if it's already nice and opaque, as you get it more transparent with glass medium, you're going to still keep a lot of color brilliance. Okay. So, all right, let's squeeze some of this out. I'll just kind of shift it over if I can. And when you get your glass medium, and you open it, if it's brand new, there might be like a little foil insert in top. That's just to keep it dry in storage. Because, you know, these get shipped all over around the world, and we want to make sure that it's nice and tight, helps prevent spillage, and also keeps it from drying out in the container. So just remove that if you have a brand new bottle. Put the lid back on, and then it's a little flip top cap, and we're just going to squeeze out the medium here. And probably what I'll do, let's see, I don't know if you guys want to, I think this was the first one I made. So we'll start with the little snow one because it's a pretty quick one. So this is just like a night snow scene. So I'll just mix up the blue and the white. So I'll put a little, this is probably like a $50 size or maybe quarter size amount of glass medium. I'll do that for the white and the blue. And when you read on the bottle, Liquitex tries to put as much information as possible on here, but you know, it's hard to get everything. But just know that we do talk about how to use it in case you forget later, or in case, you know, you're in the store and you have a different product of ours. We do put the directions on the container. And so you want to make sure you use this only with acrylics, and you don't want to use more than 10% paint to medium. So I'm not super mathematics scientific. It's not like I'm getting measuring tools out and measuring what 10% is, but it's just kind of a, you know, a guideline, right? So if this is my amount of color, I'll do the blue first. Just kind of imagine, what's about 10% of that volume? So, you know, we're going to go with that, kind of like a large pea size amount of color. And then I'll do the white here. Same thing. I could do less paint if I wanted. I'm just going to make my mixture much more transparent. Okay, this will already be transparent, but it would be even more so. Then I just take my palette knife. This is obviously a well-loved knife of mine, but I really like it for mixing. It's a stainless steel blade. It's a Liquitex palette knife. Stainless steel is important because, you know, invariably you can see I'm not super kind when it comes to cleaning, but if I get fed up with how grubby it looks, I can just soak it in water and get like a, you know, a nice, not too harsh scrubby pad and scrub it clean after it's been soaking in water. Okay. All right, so just mix that about. One thing I've noticed from using the glass medium, I try not to mix as vigorously as I might with if I'm just using acrylic paint, because I've noticed it can get very slight micro bubbles. So as you're mixing, try to do it kind of slowly and evenly. Okay. And it's going to sit for a second. Some of those micro bubbles are going to dissipate, but you just, you know, typically you don't want a bunch of bubbles in your paint film. And then just take a paper towel and wipe it off. Okay. That's the other thing to say too. I don't know. I get in the habit of picking up a bottle and shaking it, probably because of juice drinks I have or whatnot. And, you know, you want to shake them to kind of make sure everything's nice and emulsified. Don't do that with the glass medium because you don't want to get a lot of bubbles in it. So hopefully I didn't do that. I don't think I did, but just kind of be aware of that. Okay, I'll try to slowly mix in my titanium white with the glass medium. This is such a fun part. I don't know. I know people will get on Instagram or whatnot and just do videos of mixing. And yes, I will watch those sometimes because they are so soothing. It's better when you're doing it yourself though, because you get to kind of zone into that whole process. Tell me that's not just me, right, guys? You guys do that too. I'll just assume that's a yes. Your silence, I'll take it as a yes. But all right. So I'm trying to smooth it out, make sure any bubbles I have in there are fairly dispersed. And let's see, so for this one, I used this larger brush. With acrylics, it's always a nice idea to use a synthetic filament brush. If you had like a cheapy natural hairbrush, like a hog bristle, it works with acrylic, but the problem with hog bristle with acrylics is they can go limp when you put them in water. You don't have to use water with a glass medium, but I probably am going to get water in it as I change color. And so you want a synthetic filament brush that's really going to hold up to water usage. Hog bristle, just like if we jump in the shower, our own hair gets wet and limp and changes texture. Natural hair does that, but synthetic does not. All right, so we'll start with this one, and let's do I think I'll do the blue first, and I'm just going to dab it on because I like that kind of, oh, what's the word? Kind of this, I don't know, the variation that kind of stippling gives with the light and dark of the color. And just turn it. In the chat, can you tell me how many of you are painting with me? Are there lots of people painting with me? Or mainly just watching? Ashley, will you let me know if anyone says if they're painting or not?
Yeah, no one so far. I think, well, everyone has their cameras off, so I can't even see, but I think everyone's mainly watching.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was like looking, I was trying to see if I could see anyone painting along, but
gotcha.
it's just
I get it. Sometimes it's like a cooking show, right? It's like just because you watch a cooking show doesn't mean you want to be cooking right when it's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that too. All right, so just kind of dabbing it on. And you can play around with a little bit. You see that even though it's only 10% color, the vibrancy of that phthalo blue really stands out. But what I like about phthalo blue is that it's really has a nice transparency to it when it's dry. Just like any acrylic, this glass medium, I should have said, when I don't know if you noticed, when I squeeze it out on the palette knife, it's slightly milky. It's not crystal clear. It will get crystal clear, however, when it dries. So that milkiness is just the water in the acrylic, in that glass medium, or any acrylic, the paint has it too. And when the water evaporates, the paint gets clearer, and sometimes the color will seem a little bit darker because of that. And we call that value shift or color shift. So don't let that freak you out or concern you. That's just a natural drying process of acrylics. But what I like is, that's one reason I love acrylics. I kind of like painting it and then coming back the next day and like seeing it all kind of fresh and darkened down and more transparent, or whatever attribute that color has. Okay, so quickly got the blue on there, and I will just take my brush and I usually always wipe my acrylic paint off first, just to keep as much of it as possible out of the wash water, and then clean it in the water and put it aside. So now we'll go to the white and dab in the kind of snowbank here. And probably what we'll do, because we're going to put little snow flurries in the night sky, but I think what we'll do is we'll let it get a little more touch dry. We'll start another one, and then when this gets more touch dry, we'll come back and do the snow dots. Okay, it can be a little difficult if you can't turn your hand all the way around like an owl can turn its neck all around, it seems like. But so just carefully, twist it as you need it when you're painting. But I'm really, it's just so easy. I'm just dabbing it on. Okay, I'm not trying to get really fancy with my brushwork, because I think too, snow has that variation in texture on the ground, and I think by dabbing it on, it kind of helps mimic that. Okay, so we'll put that aside and let that dry a bit. I'll put that over here and wipe off my brush.
We do have a bit of a question. Do all acrylic paints shift to darker when they dry? Like,
that is the trend. Yes, pretty much all of our colors, all of our mediums will have a bit of that color shift or value shift. Okay, Our sister brand, Winsor & Newton, actually has an acrylic series called Winsor & Newton Professional Acrylics, and it does not do that. So if you're a painter, maybe you're switching from oil color and you want to switch to acrylics, that's a really nice range to know about because it does not have that value shift or color shift. But the trend for almost all acrylics is to have that value shift or color shift when the water evacuates. Yeah, good question. All right, so let's do, since we've already got some white mixed up, let's go ahead and start our little tree here. Same thing for the snow. I guess I didn't need to clean my brush. I didn't think about it. Go ahead. Oh, I'm not going to repaint that one. We're going to do a tree and then little snowbank around it. So I'll do the snow first, a little bit lower kind of snowbank. And of course, guys, you can think of whatever designs you want for whatever season or holiday or event you want. I think it's just nice around this time of year. We often think of giving gifts. And so, of course, these are fun, quick little gifts that you can make and give. I have young kids, so I always think of, you know, what are teacher gift opportunities that I can do. And, you know, I just think it's a nice way to add a personal touch to a gift that you give someone. And then, of course, if you go to like a dinner party or whatnot, these are nice because the host can use them right away and everyone can enjoy them. But I think this would be like a project that you could do, you know, with teens or younger kids, and they could enjoy it as well. So it's a quick and fun way to feel accomplished. I don't know if about you guys, but I always like making things because I love that sense of accomplishment I get afterwards. Just like, oh, I made this, I did this, you know. I don't know if it's that like little kid, I made this, look at me. But just something about working with my hands, working with materials, getting something done and being able to enjoy it and then hopefully share it with others. Okay, so we've got the snowbank on that. And we'll let that dry just a little bit. And then let's start the next one, which is the little Christmas wreath. This has a lot of gold around it. And I remember I mentioned that the gold is semi-opaque. This is one where I did want to do 2 coats just to make it even more shimmery. At night with the candle in it, it's still quite transparent. So it's, even though it looks more opaque in the direct light, it's still lovely and transparent. So you can see that flame flickering through. But we'll go ahead and get, we'll go ahead and do the wreath and then we'll get the gold on there. And so we can do another coat before the end. All right. So here, let's mix up our color. We need some green and red. So I've just got the Hooker's Green Hue Permanent. And I'll just do about the same amount that I did before with, so I don't know how I can show you. Oh, I'll show you on the palette knife. So that milkiness I was talking about. See how that's kind of milky? Okay, milky to white. Again, that's gonna clear up as it dries. But that, yeah, if you're an oil painter, that's something that oil painters don't have to deal with because there's no oil. I mean, there's no water in oil color. But yeah, with acrylics, it's something you kind of need to anticipate and think about. Not so much in a project like this, but if you were doing like a, say, a landscape painting that was taking, you know, weeks for you to do, and you're wanting to use the same colors over and over again, you just want to make sure that you understand your color mixtures, or maybe make a note of it. So you can, when you come back the next day for a painting session, you anticipate a little bit of that color or value shift when you're mixing your colors. All right, so again, just kind of gently mixing the green into the glass medium. And so the cool thing about the glass medium, what it does for you, traditional acrylic, even though I could sit here, squeeze out paint, paint it on glass, and it's going to stick on some level, it's not going to be permanent. And in fact, if I accidentally scratch it with my fingernails, it's going to scrape right off. You know, if I tried to clean it with like a wet washcloth, I'm probably going to wash it right off. Glass or other slick, non-porous surfaces are typically really difficult for acrylics to adhere to on their own. So that's why the glass medium is so cool. Is I'm not a chemist, but somehow they formulated it to allow the acrylic that you mix into it to now grip really firmly and tightly to glass or ceramics or other slick non-porous surfaces. So it's a really cool way to expand your painting possibilities by surface, right? It doesn't have to just be canvas or other fabric. Now, in this case, I'm going to try something. This is a total experiment because I just want to see if it works. But I have a little embossing gun. I'm going to see if I can get some of the bubbles out. Oops, it's stuck from resin here. All right. So they're being, that experiment didn't work. They're being a little stubborn. So what I'll do instead is I can just take my palette knife and just, pop some of those. I don't want big giant bubbles. So I'm just, so that helped. I just gently pop them. And now I'm going to just rub it out smoothly again. Now for the wreath, since I'm just using small strokes of green, that's not going to be a huge deal. But just want to try and minimize that. All right, so I'm going to use my smaller brush for this. It's just a small round. It is synthetic filament. It's called a Galleria brush. It's by Winsor Newton, and I found it really handy for this particular design. So hopefully there you can see that, and really just imagining a I'm just imagining, a circular wreath and just making short little tight brush strokes. And here you can, it's probably a little hard to see because of the size. But I'm just making little short brush strokes, and I can change direction. I'm just trying to make it look leaf, leaf-like or bough-like as I go around it. And this is one, all right, so here's a perfect example. So I feel like that doesn't look so great. So really what I can do, I can just take a paper towel and quickly rub it off, and then I'll take another paper towel and rub it off again. Notice I'm trying not to use my fingers because I'm trying to keep the finger oils off. But you can see, I mean, heck, I make mistakes all the time. So it's very easy to correct it as you're working. All right. And yeah, let me make it a little rounder here. All right, and I'll fluff it out a little bit here. Okay, and so the brush that you use, if you use like a flat brush or a larger brush, that's obviously going to change the size and stroke of your kind of leaf marks. And so that's the fun of it, kind of experimenting with different tools to use on different surfaces. But again, this nice round Galleria brush works nice, which works well. So this glass medium gets touch dry fairly quickly. If you've ever used acrylics, you know that acrylics get touch dry very quickly on their own, and glass medium doesn't change that. It may give you a little bit more working time or blending time, but I haven't found it to be screamingly, different in a lot more working time. So what does that mean? Well, like I said before, like we are letting this sit and dry, and this blue one is already touch dry, and it's been what, 7 minutes, I don't know. So it gets touch dry really quickly. But say you want to wrap these up and ship them to someone across the country. In this thin layer, I try to give it, minimum 5 to 7 days drying time if you can, because you want to make sure all of that water has a chance to evacuate or evaporate out of the paint film. If it's still damp, when you wrap it in packing material, it can make, crease marks or bubble marks in it, and it's just annoying. So you don't want to try and wrap it up too soon. Okay. All right, so we got that layer of green down. I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to switch to the gold because I'll put the red bow on after this has a chance to dry. Clean out my brush. And now we'll put out some gold. Who doesn't like gold or silver? I mean, that's just me talking, I guess, but I just love all of our metallics. The Basics has copper and bronze and probably others that I'm not thinking of, but oh yeah, we have an iridescent graphite and or it's called graphite, and an iridescent white. So if you're into the shimmer colors, those are some good ones to know about. Obviously the gold, and same ratio, pea size amount of color, about $1/4 to $1/2 size amount of glass medium. And again, that's just making sure that I have plenty of medium to color, because I want my paint to stick nicely. So back to adhesion. So we're talking about how the glass medium helps acrylics adhere better to glass, because typically on their own they won't. The cool thing about the glass medium is not only will it help it adhere better, you know, as it is right after you mix it together and let it dry, but when it's touch dry, or, you know, maybe dry for a couple of hours, you can then take it and put it in the oven and heat set it for 30 minutes at 300 degrees Fahrenheit to make it much more scratch resistant. Okay, so it's already nice and adhesive without heat setting it, but if you want it even more permanent or durable on the glass, you can heat set it. And that's another really cool feature of it, because sometimes artists want to use like maybe kitchen tiles. They want to paint that for the back of their kitchen backsplash. Of course, these are artist materials, and if they're on your kitchen backsplash, they're going to get a lot more abuse than they're really artist paints are really intended for. But using the glass medium and heat setting it is going to buy you a lot more life in that kind of setup. So heat setting it, I could heat set these votives if I want. I'm probably not going to, because I found it to be durable enough on its own. But a couple of things to say about heat setting. You want to, in my experience, it's a good idea to first test the glass piece. Like, so you buy a new glass piece, or I go to the thrift store and I'll look for all sorts of interesting glass pieces. You find something neat, you're not going to know if it's suitable to be heated or not. So it's a good idea to do a dry run, heating it before you bother painting it. All that means is you take your glass piece, stick it in a cold oven, and then start the heat up to 300, and then let it go for 30 minutes at 300. Make sense? And then to be on the extra safe side, turn off the oven. You can crack the door very slightly, because you want to make sure you don't open it and pull the glass piece out and have it crack from the temperature change, right? So just crack the oven door slowly, let a lot of that heat dissipate, and then after 30 minutes or so, you can open up the oven and take out your glass. So I do a dry run, heating it with just the piece without paint, and then that way you'll know it can withstand that heating and cooling in the oven. Let me know if that doesn't make sense, and I'll try and clarify it, but hopefully that does. Okay, so I've got my gold mixed up. I'll take this larger round Liquitex round brush again. And in this case, I think I just was a little more painterly, not so scrubby with it. Just kind of brushed it on. But one thing too, I've noticed, because the glass medium is transparent, I wasn't a huge fan of making these stripe marks. That's just my preference. Just because it's so transparent, you're going to get some of that edge beading that you can get from painting. I like adding my own texture so it looks purposeful, if that makes sense. So I just am carefully kind of just using a painterly brush stroke. And I think that adds some active energy to the design also, right? Stripes are fine, smooth stripes are fine, but I think that's just my personal preference, that I like this more active diagonal mark making on the glass votive. But hey, you're the artist, so you got to make that decision yourself. I'm just telling you how I made these. Okay, I'm not too worried about glopping it on, but I will tell you, if I were to take a large amount of it, you know, like a really thick blob, and so you can see that's a thick blob, and now I'll show you here. That thick blob, if I let it sit, it's going to start to drool down or dribble down the side, which you don't really want. So I wouldn't do it thicker than like maybe, I guess, what, a 1/16 inch of color. You don't want it too terribly thick when you're painting, because it'll just start to slide off a vertical surface, if that makes sense. So be aware of that. It's much better to build up, you know, paint over it again with a second coat rather than trying to do it all in one coat. Just easier, better for it. Just works better. Okay. All right. The other reason I like this texture is that to me, it looks really, not kind of, it really does look pretty with the candle in it, because that varied texture reminds me of, blown glass that will have different textures to it, and the way the light hits it is really nice. Okay. So I think that's a good first coat of the gold. We'll set it aside. And then we can paint the last one here. You guys doing good? No questions for me right now?
Actually, there was a question about porcelain. So just wondering if images painted with the glass medium on ceramics are dishwasher safe, or should?
Great question. Yeah. You can hear my audio fine, right? That just cut out a second ago, but you can hear me okay, right? Okay. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I would not consider these dishwasher safe, no matter the surface, whether it's regular glass or porcelain or ceramic. Hand washing is also always going to be safest. It may be that you can get it through a dishwashing cycle or two and it's just fine, but for best predictability, Liquitex advises against dishwashing. Part of that too is our modern detergents are a lot harsher than they used to be. And so, if you just throw it in the dishwasher, even if it's on the top rack, the detergents are going to be really hard on it. So, good hot soapy water is perfectly fine for cleaning it. It's just maybe a little annoying because you have to hand wash it, but it's going to be better for your design in the long run. And this is bringing up a question I'll get a lot. Like, say you want to paint a mug or a trivet or something like that. Items that purposely get hot, coffee mug, you add coffee to it or tea or whatnot. What you need to know about the glass medium is that when it gets heated, or like you put it in the oven, you're not going to be touching it while it's in the oven. But if you heat up a coffee mug with hot coffee, that glass medium can get a little bit tacky again. It's not going to come off, but the paint itself is going to be a little more vulnerable when it's heated up. So I don't like painting it on mugs or trivets because I feel like that tackiness kind of can be problematic. If you did it on a mug and you did it, I don't have a mug handy, but if you did it lower than the lip edge, that can be okay. But if you stick it in the microwave, it's going to get, tacky and gross, and you could accidentally scratch the design when it comes right out of the microwave. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's probably not the best idea for the glass medium. Painting food items, like say I've painted wine glasses before. We recommend that the glass medium or any of our materials you don't have food contact with them. So these are votives, you're not putting food in it, but if you did a wine glass or something like that, you would want to make sure that you leave the top rim where your lips are going to touch. Don't put paint there because you don't want people accidentally, getting their the skin by their mouth on the paint. It's not like it's toxic or, it has lead in it or something like that. It's just a matter of, with all art materials, it's a wise idea to keep it out of your body as possible and off of your food. Okay. And plus we just don't have it tested by the FDA because they're the ones who have to test everything that goes in, every food product. So we just physically don't get it tested for that. Okay. I kind of went off on that, but hopefully that answered it. Okay. So the last one to me is like the party votive, confetti, big confetti floating around. I just thought it was a real party vibe. Plus it's a really fun one to do. So, and it'll take a couple layers. So we'll do one layer now and we'll kind of rotate through these. Let's do the blue. We've got that mixed up. And yeah, Ashley, if there's more questions, you can ask away, but.
There actually is another one. Sorry, yeah. My thing broke out, so I was going to ask it right away, and then before I knew it, you cut back right in and you were doing it.
I just kept talking now.
No, you were already like painting. I was like, whoa, I missed a lot already. Are the instructions that you gave us for heat prepping the glass anywhere online with Liquitex, or a specific YouTube example that you would give?
Yeah, so that's a great question. They are on the container, and I'm sure they're on our site somewhere. I haven't looked it up on our site, but surely it's on there. But yeah, the directions, it just says must be dry before curing. And curing is what they mean by putting in the oven. So you want it to be dry, at least a few hours dry. And then it says cure in the oven for 30 minutes at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. The part about the cool oven and all cracking the door and all that is not on here. And I don't know if it's on our site. That's just kind of my suggestion for working with glass and heat. It's probably on the extra conservative side, but you know, no one wants to spend their time painting a glass item and have it get cracked just because of opening the oven door too soon. So it'll be on this, which is going to be on YouTube, but I don't know if there's a certain, I take that back. On the this channel I spoke about earlier, the Fine Art Collective North America, I know that there are some mini demos on glass medium on there, and there might be an Instagram live or two on it, and it's probably mentioned in there also. So if you really get into this medium, that's a great place to find other, you know, different artists working with this medium and seeing what they do also. But yeah, fortunately, we cram as much as we can onto those bottles, but we just can't put every single thing. So, but that's why too, to mention, guys, as you have questions, I'm sure you can reach out to Aboveground, and if they don't know it, they can reach out to us. But if you want to reach out to us directly, you certainly can do that. There's, I think, a way to ask questions through liquitex.com, and then we also have a tech support line, which I think is on our site, but it's, oh, I might think of it in a second. I can give it to you, but yeah, always feel free to reach out to us. We have a great tech support person. She's really fantastic, and then I'll help out sometimes as well. So there are plenty of people who can help you if you have a question about Liquitex. So the phthalo blue, I already had it mixed up, so I'm just gonna work with that now. And all I'm doing is I'm using that round brush again, which, because of that rounded tip, it makes these nice kind of organic swoosh marks. Let's call them swoosh marks. Floating confetti, or I don't know. I think confetti when I think of this, even though I know it's big confetti, but it reminds me of confetti. And you just want to, as you do your design, if you like this kind of look, just think about spacing out the brush strokes and varying the way you apply it. You know, like I'm not doing it in the same direction. I'm kind of moving my wrist around to apply it in different ways. Looks like, oh, I think that water's on the inside. Yeah, that water's on the inside from washing it up. So just move it around, and then, you know, periodically assess your design, you know, look at it and say, do I need to add, maybe I need a little blip there. I like it when designs go off the edge a little bit. So, you know, maybe I want a little blip there. And that's all. We just kind of look at it. I got a little smear on the edge for my fingers, but so I'll just turn that into a purposeful blip. And then we'll let that dry and add more. But now we can go back to our snow scene and add some snow. So I'll clean that off. And I just have a stack of paper towels here that I'm using. So those are always super handy to have. And if you get it on your skin, like I always get paint on my skin when I'm working, the nice thing is it's really easy to wash off with soap and water. I often will have like a little gentle scrub brush handy, like a nail brush, or some of that kind of volcanic soap stuff if I need to help to really get it off. Okay, but we've got our sky and our snowbank here. So to make the snow, it's really fun and easy. I just use the bottom of a brush handle to make those little round dots. Okay, so it's the same idea as putting, just thinking about your design and distributing out the snow flurries where you want them. And this is like a really fun meditative way to paint, just adding snow dots. I think of, you know, spreading it out, and I don't go to the surface every single time, because if you do multiple dabs from one dip in the paint, it changes the size of your dot. So they get smaller, and I like distributing some of the smaller dots in with the bigger ones, just to add some, you know, interest and variety. I like also dabbing on the edge of the snowbank just to kind of soften that brushed edge. But I'm telling you, you do this and you're going to be hooked. It's just super something about it. Hey, I'm easily pleased and easily entertained. So this is pretty fun for me. Hopefully you'll find it fun. Also, just dabbing it on there. And just like that, you've made snow. Sorry, my computer updated something. But yeah, so just like that, you made your little snow scene. Fun, right? Put that there. And we can now jump to our tree. And let's add the tree first before I add a bunch of snow. So I'll just clean off my the end of my brush. And for this, we're just going to make a little tree, much like we did the wreath, by just kind of dragging the smaller brush stroke. When you do a round stroke, you start at the tip and it doesn't matter. For the I'm saying it like you always have to do it that way. You certainly don't. But for the tree, what I did is I start at the top and I brush downward. Okay, so I've got my green mixed up. And I'm going to imagine kind of where I want my tree. And I start at the top. And I'm going to rough it in first. And then I can come back and add more as I need. So yeah, so now I'm switching it. See, sometimes I think I do something a certain way, and then in reality, I do it totally differently. So it's like why it's good to watch artists work instead of just listening to them, because sometimes it's hard to verbalize what you actually are doing. But when you see them doing it, yeah, like, oh, I see what they did there. All right, so getting the outer edge of my tree. Getting that, imagining the branches. And notice I'm not making it like a solid triangle. Again, I feel like I'm using the way the paint and the transparency are to my advantage, because that brush stroke suggests the variation in a tree branch, right? That deeper, thicker part of the paint looks like the thicker part of a tree, right? So I'm trying to use that brush stroking to my advantage. Maybe I'll come back in this way to kind of tweak that out a little bit. Okay, but got the tree down. And then now we need to mix our brown just with the colors we have here. So I'll take a little bit of the red and a little green. Don't need a lot because we got a teeny tiny trunk. So that's like just a teeny tiny dab of red, teeny tiny dab of green. Mix that and see kind of what we get. I'll have to adjust it a little bit, I'm sure. So that's fairly reddish. So what is, when you think of a color wheel, what's the complement for red? Complementary color for red? It's green, right? So I'm going to add more green, see if I can tone down that red and dull out that red with more green. That's a way that you can mix black if you don't have it as part of your color set. Pick two complementary colors. Like if I had blue and orange, I could start with that. Purple and yellow, I could start with that. And just keep mixing the ratios until you get the color brown that you want. If you want black, I've found that sometimes you just have to mix all three primaries. So if I didn't want it to be brown, I wanted it to be more black, I would maybe add some blue to it, and that's going to make it more black than just brown. Okay, can you see how that the red and the green made me a brown? Okay, so now I'll add some glazing medium, glass medium to that. That's not a full pea size amount of brown, so I'm going to use less glass medium, probably like a nickel size maybe, and then mix that in. Oh, I forgot to go slowly. I need to kind of go slowly here and mix it in. That's the cool thing though too. A little bit of color goes a long way with the glass medium. An ounce per ounce, the paint is what's more costly than the mediums. So any medium you use increases the volume of your color. So That's a nice little thing to know about acrylic mediums. So I'll take my smaller round brush. Oh, I didn't get the green out of it. Rinse it out, and then now I will take this and get myself a little trunk. I'm going to overlap the white a little bit just to ground it, get it on the ground. And two, I might want to come back and do another layer just to get a little darker. There's a little tree trunk. And now I can take the end of my brush handle and add some snow. And if you wanted, you could add like a little, oop. Oh, I got some green on there accidentally. Yep, made another mistake. No biggie. I'll just wipe it off. If you wanted to, you can add like a little red bird or add a star at the top or little ornaments. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but not a tree. A snow tree is kind of a nice winter kind of symbol. And just keep going around. Notice I'm still holding it by the rim. And just dabbing that on. I guess I get about 4 dabs per dip in the white. And all right. Well, that's pretty good. All right. So got the snow in there. So that one's pretty much done. I might do another layer on the brown. We'll put that aside and see how this green is a little bit darker. I think that's because it, you know, like I said, it darkens down when it dries. So it's going to be more this foresty green when it dries. Okay, a little more foresty green. All right, now let's Ashley, are the questions or we're doing okay?
We're doing pretty good for right now.
Okay, sounds good. So now let's do our red bow. So we just need a teeny tiny amount of red, don't need a lot. And it's like a small pea and like a nickel size amount of medium. And we'll mix that up. That is our Cad Red Deep Hue. Oh gosh, I always mix so fast. You gotta slow down. Slow down, slow down. And mix it in. So I'm painting these snow scenes, but I live in North Texas, and like right now, it's almost kind of humid and balmy. It's like I could be wearing shorts if I really wanted to, but I think tomorrow they said it's going to be in the upper 30s. So that's like keeps things interesting as for weather, but hopefully wherever you are, it's pleasant and not too extreme temperature wise. Okay, so we're back to our wreath. We're going to do a little bow, and you could do the bow I could have planned it where I did the wreath higher and did a little bow at the bottom, but I think I'll make sure this is touch dry. Yeah, it's touch dry. I'm just going to do my red bow at the top again. And this you can kind of fuss around with it to get the kind of bow shape you want. I'm thinking kind of like a softened triangle. And I'll probably want to do another coat to make it a little brighter red. And I say it's like a softened triangle. You know, the fatter edge of the side of the triangle is on the, you can see that. The longer edge of the triangle is the outer edge of the bow. And then I'm not having them meet. I'm just going to put like a little, that's like kind of the center tie of the bow. And then just 2 kind of, you know, that's the drop ribbon part from the bow. The technical term is drop ribbon. I don't know what that's called. The tails of the bow, maybe. That's probably better. Okay, so we'll let that dry. While that dries, we'll do the second coat of the gold. And that's a nice thing too. I mean, we're working, it's been about 50 minutes and this medium is still staying nice and workable. It's starting to set up a little bit. So, you know, if I was doing a lot of pieces and I wanted to mix my color and not have to worry about it drying out, I could add a humidifier to my studio. I wouldn't be working with all of these hot lamps around because anything that encourages evaporation will encourage your acrylic paint to dry more quickly. So yeah, just add humidity, get rid of heat lamps, and that will help your paint help keep it workable for longer in, you know, on the palette. Because on the glass, it's already touch dry, but obviously on the palette, it's a little bit thicker, so it's taking longer for it to get touch dry, which is good. I don't want it to dry yet. Okay. So this is going to make it nice and shimmery. And obviously, why did I have the silver out? Oh, I think I put that, I'll put that in the confetti one. But yeah, you could do silver if you felt like it was more of a silver kind of party or whatever. Your decor is more silver tones, or your friend's decor, whatever works. Okay. All right, so the other little touch too, and I have been, you know, handling this on the rim, but what I did on this, on the original piece, is I came in with the gold and I just fairly thickly, this is a case where I can do it a little bit thicker because it's, you know, it's not on a vertical surface, it's on a horizontal surface. So I'm dabbing a gold rim around it. And so I washed my finger or my hands with soap before we started working here. So hopefully touching the edges right there didn't compromise it too much, but I can also dab on a thicker layer here. And I want to turn it, but I'm not going to, so I'll just keep it. I'll just dab around the edge. And that just kind of, I felt like that kind of finished it off a little bit, to have that thicker gold rim. And the gold is really nice too, because you can see how when it's wet, it looks a little, I can't lift it up right this second, but this is kind of pale, whereas when it's dry, it's like a really nice, luscious kind of gold rim. So, you know, just remember that it's going to get that, it's going to darken down a little bit and be a little more brilliant when it's dry. Okay. So almost done with that. So I'll just move that over here so I don't touch it. Let's get another layer on party votive here. Okay, and we've got this red out. Let's go ahead and do that. Now I can start overlapping some of the kind of confetti marks if I want. And when you overlap, you're doing something called glazing. Because, well, you're doing glazing when you're working in a thin layer anyways, but glazing is really more evident when you overlap two colors on top of each other and that are in transparent layers. Because when you do glazing, it's like you're stacking those two transparent colors on top of each other. And when this dries, that red and that blue will look a little more purpley in that area, because it's like you're looking through the color rather than just looking at the color sitting on top, right? It's like I think of it as like looking through pieces of stained glass that are stacked on each other. So that's the other reason I kind of like this simple abstract design, is I can play with that concept of glazing quickly. And I felt like that color was a little blobby, so I took some of it off. There, de-blob that one a little bit. Okay, and got that. So our night sky is finished. Our tree, like I said, I'll do the brown. We're letting that dry. let's see if I can, if I might be pushing it. Let's see if I can do another coat of the red. But yeah, not a lot of time. You can get 4 little votives taken care of pretty quickly. All right, so I'm coming in with my, I think I had this brush before, just dabbing a little more of the red on. I'm probably pushing it a little bit. It's probably not quite touch dry yet, but it's more than it was. Just add a little bit more red. Okay. And then I have, looks like I have a different magenta on there. Let me see if I can find that color. I didn't lay it out. I like that contrast of the red with a magenta color. I don't know if you guys got that in your set or if you already bought the colors, but kind of like the counterpoint of that more magenta red with the actual red. Let me see. I think I've got it here. Sorry about that. But this stalling time is helping it dry too. So it's all part of the plan here. All right. I've got a large quinacridone quinzin. Let's use that. Yeah, just the combo of these 2 colors. I know people, you know, I remember growing up, oh, you don't put red and pink together, but I love those 2 colors together. I like how they set each other off. All right. So quinacridone magenta. This is a good color just to have as part of a limited palette because it gives you pretty clean oranges in a mix and clean violets as well. So I do like having quinacridone magenta around. I've got a lot of paint here. I didn't need to mix that much, but I'll just keep it in the same ratio that I had of the other colors. So mix my quinacridone magenta with my glass medium. And then we can put that on the party votive. And then while that's sitting for a second, well, no, I think we'll do the magenta and then I can do a little bit of the gold. And I think that will be it. And there's a couple things I want to show you. And in fact, you know what, let's do this. I will put the magenta on. We'll let it dry for a second more, and then I'll show you some other ideas. That's probably a better step. So see how that magenta kind of works nicely with that pink and the red and the blue. And you know what, honestly, if I were to accidentally smear some of the color that's already down, I'm going to be fine with that because it's just kind of this fun abstract design. Okay. So just assessing it to see what I think of how that color is distributed. All right, not bad, not bad. Put that over here, put that over here. Let me show you some other things you can do. Move these over. Okay. So I mentioned about not wanting to have food contact with items that you paint. So keeping that in mind, I found like a nice kind of tray that you could use. And I use the Hooker's Green Deep for this Hooker's Green Hue Permanent and the glass medium. And then I think in this case, yeah, I think I kept with the Cad Red Hue. Sorry, the Cad Red Hue. And then here I added a little bit of white for the poinsettia, but I just thought this was kind of a nice festive, like pine branches and poinsettia, and I added it up here at the corner. And I did it on the edges. So this, you could put cheese or little toasts or whatever out on it, fruit plate or whatnot, and you could minimize the food contact. But this is something I just got at like a discount store. And I don't know, different ones you can go into will have tons of white dishes, you know, that I say white because that just shows the color better. It doesn't have to be white that you paint on. It just is, it's going to be more like painting on a white canvas, right? And so the color is going to be a little more easy to deal with on that lighter surface. But so that's that. And then, oh my gosh, I've been so excited to share this with you guys because I have more plans for this kind of process. So I do like glass in general. I'll save interesting glass bottles here or there. I have some mason jars and I have some like chemistry flasks and things like that. And this was a really beautiful wine bottle that I'd had for a while. So I soaked the label off of it and used a larger brush, this Liquitex, got paint on it, this Liquitex a 1-inch paddle brush. And kind of like with the little party votive, just did the same idea. In this case, I used the iridescent copper and gold and the magenta and the phthalo blue. But check it out. Oh, look at that. Can you see the light in there? I'm sure you guys have seen the little lighted strands that you can get with the faux cork in it. But I was so excited. In fact, let me turn off one of my lights. Can you see how beautiful that is? Sorry, I'm just so excited about this. And what was that?
No, I was just saying it's really beautiful. It's really fun.
It's fun. I've been keeping it in my studio for this, but now that I'm almost done with this, it goes with our decor. Okay, so I was super excited about this one. And then I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities for these little fairy lights and painted glass. So I just thought that was a fun thing to show. One idea I had that I have not tried yet, but thought it could be fun if you've got some friends that know you and are willing to ride with whatever experimental thing you might bring them or do for them. I thought you could get a new bottle of wine, soak off the label, paint it, and then as they drink it, they've got their painted piece that they can just keep after. So, and then you could give them a little string of lights that they could set up. So it's kind of like, here's your wine for the party, and then here you can make your own gift after or something like that. So, or you could paint some wine glasses along with it. So thanks for indulging my excitement with that. I just was super excited. I was like, wow, pretty quick and easy kind of presentation there. So last thing, let's add the gold to this one. I'm going to stick this brush in here so the paint doesn't get dried out on it. And my gold is still hanging in there, hasn't totally dried out. And I'm using the smaller brush now because I'm kind of wanting to just go into the crevices a little bit because I am rushing the drying time a little bit here. So I'm not doing as much overlapping just because I'm trying to keep a little bit of a cleaner design. But on the thinner part of the brush stroke, yeah, I can overlap a little bit. But that gold, again, having just a little bit of the shimmer color, whether it's gold or silver or whatnot, I think it just makes it really fun. And again, when it dries, it's going to be a richer looking gold. So almost done. Hopefully the way I'm holding these, you can see what I'm doing. I get into the zone of it and I'm like, oh yeah, people are watching me do this. I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. All right. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty good. Okay. So we've got our set now. Oh, when I first was kind of playing with ideas, I ended up making a set of 4. So that's another thing you could do too. I had a set of 4 of the little snow scene on this more kind of bulbous votive. So that's another fun thing you could do too. Just give someone a set of 4 of the same design if you wanted. And that kind of has a nice kind of cohesive vibe to it. So that's certainly something you can do as well. But I think we got all of these finished. So how about questions? Do you guys have any more questions at this point?
The chat's pretty empty. We've gone through all of those questions.
Okay.
So I think if anyone doesn't have any questions, then I think that brings us to an end of this demo. Thank you so much for joining us. That was such a fun demo to watch. I was like mesmerized by the glass. I think I might have to buy it now. And I really like the glass bottle with the fairy lights in it. That was such a good idea.
thanks. Yeah,
Like,
no.
and I've never seen the fairy lights like that with like a little fake cork. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of was on the lookout for various ones, and I've seen it at different stores now, so you probably can find it.
Yeah, that's
you're
definitely
looking.
something I want to try. I was like, wow, I love that. But
Cool.
thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you Marla and Liquitex for hosting this with us. And I think on that note, I hope everyone has a great weekend and hopefully tries out some of the Liquitex glass.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you
Thanks.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.